Now, we've entered November, Jacob, and we're rapidly approaching 2019, which does mean in January the transfer window is going to open. And in the last last week or so, there's actually been a couple of rumours regarding Watford players moving on, and we were discussing just before the break Watford possibly aiming for that European spot this season to try and keep hold of some of the key players. The first one has been reported in the last couple of days. The Mirror are saying that Chelsea and Real Madrid are interested in Roberto Pereyra. Do you believe that?
I believe the Chelsea rumours. Did a little bit of research on it, and it was actually interesting to see that Sarri tried to sign Pereyra when he was at Napoli. So there's definitely a little bit of truth in that, I think, especially with the Eden Hazard rumours. I think it would be very unlikely that Real Madrid would come in for him, but because of the quality they do have in their ranks. But I think Chelsea, that seems, especially the way he's been playing, it seems like a good move for him, and seems pretty. I believe that one. I don't think he'd be first choice, but he would be kind of that backup for whoever does replace Hazard, because let's be honest, Pereyra isn't on the same level. I think the Pereyra one is to be believed, particularly to Chelsea. Real Madrid, unlikely. But how much are we going to get for him? That's the question. Probably want around 35 million for him. I really do believe that. Because he's playing so well at the minute. And I think, particularly you said about moves in January, I think it really does depend where we are at January, whether we're not actually going to get the 7th place and it's very unrealistic, or if we actually have a really good chance of making that Europa League spot. I think it really does depend at January where we're at. If we're not going to be hitting the 7th place and don't really have a good chance of it, I think I wouldn't blame Gino and Duxbury and Giraldi saying, you know what, Bobby, you've served your time, you've played really well this season, and we're going to cash in. And similarly to Doucoure, it's clear that he wants to move. I mean, I saw a tweet the other day where he was replying to a journalist. He was very keen to get a move to PSG. I think it was those PSG rumours. So there's definitely some players that will be going out just when it happens, really, whether it's January or the summer.
Andy, would you be as accepting as Jacob about letting Pereyra go for 25, 30 million quid?
It's tricky. Not in January.
No.
I'd probably say no, because I think this season is our chance to attack that European spot. I think last season at the start when we had Silva and we were going well, there were sides slipping up. Your Southamptons, Evertons, and Burnley really took a grasp on it. And no offence to Burnley, but I think that could have well been us had we Silva not taken his eye off the ball. That could have been us, given by how we were playing. So I think this season, given the start we've had, we can really go for that spot. And if we were to sell Pereyra as our top scorer so far this season, if we were to sell Pereyra in or even Doucoure in January, as Jacob mentioned, PSG are interested, then I'd be really disappointed. We've seen the Pozzos in the past reject silly money for Igalo and Dini because they were key to us staying up, and that was it. There was more financial gain in staying in the Premier League than a quick 30 million. I would.
But the difference now is, back then, if you'd sold Igalo or Dini, it would threaten your Premier League survival. Whereas I feel now, if you sold Pereyra, the Pozzos would probably look at it, think, do you know what, we've still got enough to stay in the Premier League.
But then, where's our ambition? Enough to stay in the Premier League. The Pozzos want Europe, and so what's the financial benefit of just the difference between the financial benefit of staying in the league or getting into Europe? And there's almost the global advertising that marketing that has an attraction.
It's definitely times like that when you really do see the ambition of your owners, because staying in the Premier League to finish 17th will cost you, say for instance, £100 million. To finish 9th in the Premier League is not that much more. It's really fine margins, but to do that little bit extra to get into European spots is going to cost you probably double that. So but in terms of your return from being in the Europa League, you're not going to earn back double that. So it's a test of the ambition of the owners. Are they happy to finish somewhere between 17th and 9th and pick up a really good amount of money, or do they want to accumulate and spend that little bit extra, or quite a lot extra, to try push for Europe, but not guarantee that same return? And that's when I think you do see the ambition of the owners. And I don't think Watford have been in that position before under the Pozzos.
Sorry, Jacob, you go.
That's all right. No, I was just going to say a couple of things. One, to Andy's point about Igalo, I think as soon as that bid did come in, his form did drop dramatically. That's one thing I'd say. If the player isn't in tip-top condition to perform for the rest of the season, say if a big bid does come in for Pereyra, his head is turned, similar to Silva, then you do have to question what's the point of keeping a player whose head's not really in it. So I think it really does depend on the mindset of the player. But I do agree it would be odd to sell in January. But I think it definitely depends on our form at that time. The other thing is the Potsos and Duxbury and Giraldi have always said they want to get into the Europa League spot. I agree with Andy. It's probably our best chance, and Jake, it's probably our best chance in years to get that 7th Europa League spot. So I think it would be silly to move any of the players on in January. It's such a pivotal time where fixtures are coming thick and fast. I think it would be an odd move to do it in January, but come the summer, I would expect both of them to be on their way.
Jacob, you mentioned Doucoure as well, and another player who's tentatively been linked in the papers already about a January move. Has his performances been at the level this season as they were, particularly at the back end of last?
No, I don't think they have been the same. Statistically, obviously, he has got 2 assists to his name, I think he's got 2 in one game and 2 in the other, which is some sort of stats been floating around, which is interesting, because I actually agree, Jake. I don't think he's actually been playing that well. Capu's, I don't know whether it's Capu being that good or Doucoure being a little bit poorer than we're used to, but I think it's actually Capu, because he's been playing fantastically well. And actually, maybe PSG are looking at the wrong midfielder. It should be Capu they're looking to buy, because honestly, he's been a different player this year.
Yeah.
Because normally with Capu, he started that first 3 or 4 games, there's a real buzz in his boots. He's playing so well, and then he just drops off. But actually, we're starting to see a really different side to Etienne, that he can maintain it. It's only 11 games in, I understand that, but it wouldn't normally last this long with Etienne Capu. But I think Doucoure, that's an interesting one. I think the Pereyra one I wouldn't sell in January. Doucoure, on the other hand, I think his head has been turned. I think the 5-year contract was obviously a really good move from Watford and the club to secure him to that and really put that 50 million price tag on him. I don't think they'll sell for anything less. But is his head in it? I would like to know what Andy's thoughts on it are, because I'm not too sure. And I really do think, and I would be the same if I had a big offer from PSG on the table, guaranteed Champions League football. Yeah. They've been looking for a player like him since Matuidi had left. So he'd probably be guaranteed a start, or if not the bench. I'm not too sure. I think he would want to move in January.
It's difficult, isn't it? We never know what's going on in a player's head. Like you said, it's it's a chance to play regular Champions League football with the likes of Neymar, for goodness sake. Like other compared to Hertfordshire Saturday 3 o'clock against Cardiff City. So it's if I was in Doucoure's shoes and an offer came on the table, we're not stupid. We all know what we'd pick, but it's whether I'd like to think that a player would like to see out a season with a club and just not leave us sort of in the middle when actually we're doing pretty well. I think there's a lot can be said for a player's loyalty and contribution to a club if he sticks out a season. Maybe if he signs for PSG in January and says, "Yep, at the end of I'm going to be on loan for Watford until the end of the season," and then move to PSG at the end. I don't think as Watford fans we'd begrudge that, because he's seeing it out, staying to the end, and we're never going to say no to Abdoulaye Doucoure going on to a better club, because he deserves it.
Exactly, and obviously I can sit here as a Leicester City fan, and I've seen some really quite good players leave my club, and it is different when you support a club like Watford and Leicester, because I do feel that if they have given you a good service and the offer on the table is, let's be honest, PSG, or Man City or whoever, you understand why that player would want to go. So I think you're a little less begrudging if you're a Manchester United fan and that player was leaving to say join Chelsea. So look, I'm going to throw the speculative question out to both of you, which I did with Pereyra and an apparent bid from Chelsea, Real Madrid. If a big money or anything was on the table from Doucoure in January, what would you need, or what would you have to accept an offer and let him leave in January? Or what do you think is realistic?
Yeah, no, I would sell him in January. I think if the right offer came in, I would probably say it's tough, but I'd probably say if it was between 40 and 50, whether euros or pounds, around that mark, I wouldn't sell for any less. I think you've got to stick to your guns on a 5-year contract. He was one of the main players at the club. I don't think he actually is now. Obviously, when he is playing well, but he's not in form at the minute. Come January, we'll have to wait and see. But if the right bid did come in, I would sell. I honestly would. I think Watford have so much depth in that central midfield that actually we do need to get a player out. And Doucoure, for the money you were going to get for him, we bought him for £8 million from Rennes. He's a player who was out of form. He went to Granada on loan. Matt Sarri didn't even fancy him. He played him in an attacking role when he got him. And to think that we've just transformed this player into arguably one of the best central midfielders in the Premier League, I'd go as far to say, box to box anyway, then I really do think I would sell him on in January.
Does it feel surreal or sound surreal when you talk as a Watford fan of selling players for those kinds of figures? Because again, talking and relating back to Leicester when we sold a player for £60 million, my football club was bought for that 8 years ago for a fraction of that amount, the entire football club. So how does it feel when you're talking about selling players for £40-50 million?
It is incredible, really. I think a lot of credit has to go to Gino and all the people behind the scenes, because when he came in, obviously bought the club for £500,000, paid off £10 million of debt. Yeah. And who now would be thinking, we're standing here saying, let's sell Doucoure. Yeah, exactly. Who would have thought that? What was it? 6 years later, we're looking to sell a player on for £40-50 million. It just shows, number one, how far the club's gone, but actually how good our scouting network is, because everyone ruled and kind of waved away any suggestions that Doucoure was any good when he joined in 2017. But actually, give him a few games and especially towards the end of that 2016-17 season under Matt Sarri, we really started to see the best of Abdoulaye Doucoure. Then converted that form into the 2017-18 season under Silva. And it's just been, he's just hit the ground running from there. So a lot of praise has to go to Doucoure, but the scouting network, again, has delivered. Jacob,
just one final question for you before you go. If we do sell Doucoure in January, who takes his spot? Because obviously, does Chalobah come straight in and partner Capoue, Tom Cleverley if he's fit, or even possibly give Ben Wilmot a chance in the centre of midfield?
Yeah, as you said, there's a lot of options. I think Chalobah would obviously be the natural one to just swap in with Doucoure. I think Wilmot is a really, really bright prospect. I think he's someone that's gone under the radar a little bit, but I really do believe he could go to the top. And I'll say this now, if anything does happen, mark my words. But no, honestly, I would like to see Wilmot being given a game, especially in the FA Cup. But I think Chalobah would be the sensible option. And as you said, Cleverley, I prefer Cleverley in a little bit more of a further role forward. So maybe Gracia would have to change the system and revert to a two up top again. But it's just putting all those quality midfielders in. It's probably our strongest position, and I do think that Chalobah would come in for Doucoure. But yeah, no, I definitely would I wouldn't get rid of the wrong word, but I would, if the right offer came in, I would sell Doucoure in January.
All right, super stuff. Jacob, top man, thank you for your time this evening, mate. That was Jacob Coulshaw from the WD18 Watford Fan Channel.